At the year 2022, Kayaba Akihiko released the first virtual reality MMORPG titled Sword Art Online. Once the beta was offered to 1,000 people who were lucky enough to play it, players got first-hand experience and managed to clear up to 10 floors. But, once the game was fully completed and it was released, Kayaba trapped 10,000 players in the game only to recreate the rules of his own game. If a player's life in the game reaches 0, they will die in real life. If they try and take off the nerve gear, they will die. Kayaba had created a death game. Two notable players rose to prominence in the 2 years the game was active. Kazuto Kirigaya, also known as Kirito, was a shut-in weeb neat who's also a ladies' man and super good at video games, became infatuated with the game. Avoiding players most of the time to level up quicker and gain more loot, all that would change when he formed a connection with Asuna Yuki. Asuna was a top student in her junior high school, when she herself became enthralled by the SAO beta. Also beginning like Kirito, Asuna stayed by herself until partying up with Kirito to defeat the first boss. They would have many other run-ins after that, often butting heads over battle strategies and teams, but would ultimately form a friendship after working with each other more and more. After trying to leave her guild to party with Kirito, Kirito was forced to join Asuna's guild, the Knights of the Blood Oath. After a twist of events, the two ended up falling for each other, and that ultimately led up into chapter 16.5, baby. Let's go. Anyway, being called back to the front lines, they both fought the 75th boss, and Kirito challenged Heathcliff, who was revealed to be Kayaba Akihiko. The two ended up dueling, but Kirito ultimately beat Kayaba and beat SAO. For the sake of this video being more interesting, I have decided to solely base the context of this fight on only SAO. I will not be including stuff from ALO, GGO, and Ordinal Scale. This will be purely in SAO. I will be referencing sources from the novels, anime, and manga. Also, I will be mentioning the Progressive series. While it does have some things in the story that deviates from the main story, like Kirito and Asuna coming closer way sooner than in the anime, I feel like I should mention it because the abilities they use carry over to the main story. So, with all of that out of the way, these two fighters were possibly the best the game had to offer. Their skills are almost neck and neck. So, what if these two swordsmen fought to the death? Who would win? Let's find out. First, we will judge their swordsmanship skills and abilities. Even before entering the world of Sword Art Online, Kirito had spent 2 years practicing kendo with his cousin. This did give him experience using a sword, which carried over to SAO. His reflexes and basic knowledge with the sword helped him get an edge going in. While observing his overall fighting style, he was a master at not only the single blade, but had a proficient skill with dual wielding. Kirito wielded 2 one-handed swords. They both put out a high damage attacks and decent stamina boosts. Heathcliff mentions that to unlock the dual wielding ability, the player needs to have the fastest reaction time in the game, which Kirito has proven on multiple occasions. He's even been shown to catch the 74th boss's blade just in time before he was cut down. He was able to perform a wide range of moves into his fighting technique, following each slash to meet the skill head-on. He could judge a fight and, depending on the circumstances, could use different attacks to gain the upper hand. Whether that be dashing from afar to meet the opponent head-to-head, or mixing up powerful slashes from a downward direction to perform a vertical square attack. Dual wielding gave him a wide variety of skills in the game, though this did not allow him to perform the kind of attacks he was used to with the single blade. While dual wielding offered a high-speed attack pattern, you lack the advantage of strength behind most of your attacks. Observe when Kirito broke Kurideel's blade in their 1v1. Kirito could not put as much force into his strikes, but followed through with intense speed. Kirito's most powerful dual-wielding skills were Starburst Stream, where he unleashed a 16-hit combo that stretched into horizontal strikes, lunges, and uppercuts. But when he leveled up his proficiency to 1000, he was able to perform a 27-hit combo that even outperformed the Starburst stream, if he managed to do it right. By using this skill, he was able to contend with Heathcliff for a while, who I might make the case that he had the best defense in the game. Kirito himself was not short of a good defense, though. He has been seen effectively blocking attacks that come his way, even catching the 74th boss's sword. His defense was only ever compromised while up against Heathcliff, who was able to catch and find the flaws in his fighting style and use them against him. Although he was the creator of the game, he did know what was coming. Even when Kirito fought Heathcliff without using the game's skills, his own sword skills proved to shortly contend with Heathcliff's. However, this does not mean he is the smartest fighter in the game. When Kirito can't penetrate your defense or overwhelm you outright, he'll throw everything he has at you. This will lead him to making mistakes and becoming sloppy. When Kirito could not beat a superior Heathcliff with his own skills, he fell right back into the game's own skills and crashed. While entering a high-level dungeon, Kirito was able to rip through all the monsters in the room. He was able to bounce around the room, killing each monster one by one, and effectively cutting them down. During a skirmish against Kirito, Asuna was taken off guard, and forced Kirito to use whatever method of blocking in battle, using his own hand to save Asuna from a lethal blow. Following his hand being cut, he performed a martial arts skill known as Embracer, which stabbed into Kirito, doing a significant amount of damage, though it should be noted that Asuna did weaken him, and Kirito did use this as a last resort. Kirito also almost maxed out his entire battle healing skill, which does give him a slight edge in this fight. Finally, Kirito is arguably the best swordsman in the game, able to contend with many enemies at once, and in a 1v1 situation will definitely pose a serious threat to Asuna. While Asuna did not practice kendo or play video games before the SAO incident, she became one of the best players in the game before it was beaten. During the first month of the game, Asuna only had a small understanding of the game itself. Once Kirito taught her to use more moves and skills effectively, she rose to prominence. Even Kirito commented on her dexterity being incredible, from only viewing her in her second boss fight. Asuna carried a one-handed rapier crafted by Lisbeth. It was regarded as one of the best weapons in the game. The weapon itself is mainly used for thrusting outward with her one hand. Asuna is regarded as the fastest player in the game. Her agility segmented her as Kirito's equal. She was able to traverse the battlefield faster than even Kirito. Asuna was able to perform the strongest long-distance attack for her rapier, known as the Flashing Penetrator. This skill could effectively damage any nearby players from its sonic boom and do plenty of damage to its main target. She also chained in many thrusting attacks known as a linear sword skill. Since this skill had a fast cooldown, she could perform this attack rapidly. And because Asuna was so acrobatic, she was able to dance around her opponents, often jumping around her attacker and parry any incoming attacks. While using her sword skills, she's been seen goading her opponent's defense to make them vulnerable in their undefended areas. Because of her intense speed and agility, she would then follow up on her attack by slashing at their knees and chest, effectively putting them down. Because her weapon was mainly used for thrusting and slashing, she would on occasion leave herself open, but only for a few seconds, not even. Each of her attacks and parries were met with insane speed and fast reflexes. Unlike Kirito, Asuna was able to put more strength into her strikes due to her not having her other hand limited. Asuna has been seen taking advantage of her environment, using the anti-criminal code and her sword skills to knock back her attackers. When Asuna ambushed Kirito, she unleashed her full speed along a barrage of slashes and thrusts, making short work of her combatant. Her reflexes in battle were to the point where she could dodge the first floor's boss's sword, but on occasion she had her defenses overpowered, and fallen victim of her poor rapier's defense. Asuna also maxed out her battle healing, but not to Kirito's level. All in all, Asuna was an extremely talented and quick fighter, and would not go down easy at all, and underestimating her would be a brutal mistake. Both fighters were in their prime at the end of the game, and if they both fought Heathcliff instead of just Kirito, the battle probably would have gone in their favor. While both equally were skilled in their own right, they both flourished while working alongside each other or with a structured team. But with that being said, on their own, they both possess a wide range of skills that were unmatched with many other players. Because Kirito unlocked the dual-wielding skill, this meant that he did have the fastest reactions in the game. This does carry some weight. He's been shown to evade strikes that would have finished other players. Although this does not mean he's completely immune to this. Even when fighting high-level bosses, he has been seen taking hits. Both fights with Heathcliff proved to be a challenge when he could not rely on his own skills to save him, and his overall speed. And yes, I am aware that Heathcliff did cheat during the first fight, but even before that defeat, he was hit a few times. While I'm not trying to say that Asuna would have done better, Asuna's speed in combat proved to be better than Kirito's. He even admitted to this. Asuna's tactics allowed her to dance around her combatants and goad them into leaving themselves open to attack. While this might not entirely work with Kirito, on the other hand, we know that Asuna is capable of doing it. Because of her weapon of choice, her defense in battle was not exactly on par with Kirito's, but she made up for this by being able to put more strength into her swings. Dual wielding allowed Kirito to perform high-level skill combos that other players were not able to do. These skills would be deadly in combat if he performed them right and hit his target. Asuna never showed any ability in martial arts like Kirito did, but displayed a great understanding of her own sword skills, being able to perform the strongest long-distance thrusting attack in the game. So with that all out of the way and looking at both swordsmen, they both will stand a serious threat to one another. But in the end, I do see Kirito as the superior swordsman. He simply has more skills at his disposal. Even his own moves proved to be a threat to Heathcliff. Asuna, though, is not completely out of the picture yet. Her speed in battle would allow her to score some pretty serious hits on him if he was open for even a second. So if Asuna is able to get through his defense and ambush him, he will definitely fall under the pressure. But for now, I'm giving Kirito the slight edge as a swordsman. At the end of SAO, Kirito is a 5'6", 16-year-old human male. Being in a game, this allowed him to use more physical energy than in real life, being able to perform jumps and dodge enemies' attacks almost consistently. He was able to fight off waves of enemies for hours on end, often going into solo dungeons alone to max out on XP. Because he was able to gain so much XP, he was able to level up in his in-game skills to the point where most of his skills were maxed out. His sprint was to the point where he could last in a single fight without showing any sign of fatigue. He himself was able to solo bosses themselves. While looking for a rare medal with Lisbeth, he was able to fling himself all around the dragon to do serious damage to him. Since he could parry almost every attack that came his way, this gatewayed him to have the best reflexes in the game. As a result of this, he unlocked the dual-wielding ability. His reflexes allowed him to parry even the strongest of enemies, such as being able to dodge the 74th boss's blade for a while. His speed in general was impressive. He was able to outmaneuver Kirito in a 1v1 and have enough strength to summon to even destroy his sword. While I did mention that Kirito's strength in that context of sword fighting was less than Asuna, Kirito's strength in general was nothing short of superb. He was able to redirect the 74th boss's blade and even block its strikes. His physical resistance was to the point where he could tank even the most severe strikes, such as losing his own hand to Kirito and still being able to tank the damage and press on. At the end of the game, Kirito was level 96 and had his health maxed out at 18,500. Even before the game was cleared, Kirito was basically immune to under-level players who tried to attack him. At the end of the game, Asuna was a 17-year-old human female who was regarded as the fastest player in the game, even earning the nickname Lightning Flash Asuna. Her level at the end of the game was 94. Her health was not stated in any source that I know of, so judging off of what Kirito's health was, and it was 18,500, it was most likely near that vicinity. Her agility in battle was incredible. She was able to keep up and surpass other notable players, often using acrobatics while fighting to find angles in which she could exploit, such as jumping around an opponent or launching herself in the air. Because of her weapon and sword skills, her speed in battle was impressive, to say the least. Kirito even mentions that from his first encounter, he considers her a shooting star. Even she herself could take on the 74th boss and dodge most of his attacks. Also, her speed fell hand in hand with most of her sword skills, being able to unleash a barrage of slashes into Kirito and being capable of performing the strongest long-distance thrusting attack in the game. Asuna's physical stamina, like Kirito, could go on for hours. Even she could take on multiple enemies at once without any sign of strain. Her physical dexterity was also impressive, being able to survive many brutal attacks that would have killed other players, such as being hit twice by the 74th boss and being thrown across the first boss's room. But because of her speed and agility being so high, and how she uses these skills to her advantage in combat, she is leagues ahead of her average player. While comparing the two side by side, they both have skills and abilities that will help them get an advantage over each other. Since Kirito has the fastest reflexes in the game, and Asuna is the fastest player in the game, it's interesting to see who would come out on top. While both have been able to parry other attacks and counter, they both have fallen victim to their defenses being breached. And because of all their relative similarities these two have, it really all comes down to, can Kirito stop Asuna's attacks and counter, or will Asuna overwhelm Kirito and win? So with this being said, I will be proclaiming them equals for their physical abilities, because they both make up for their flaws and have skills that make them unique in their own right. So here we are, the verdict. These two brilliant fighters coming into battle. Before I announce the winner, I'd just like to throw in that I asked around on Reddit to see who would win this fight, and I mostly got a mixed response. Also, people really didn't like the fact that I was going to make it a deathmatch. I mean, I guess I can understand that. Can't have anime's power couple die, can we? Or... moving on. If these two SAO survivors had to fight to the death, or duel, who would win? So, let's say this fight takes place in an open duel arena. Flat land, and they both know they're fighting each other. The first part of this fight would summarize into both fighters charging at one another, wasting no time to get the job done. Asuna's speed would prove to be a challenge, and with her linear sword skill being so effective and not having a slow cooldown, she would definitely be difficult to handle. On the other hand, Kirito would be trying to get the fight over with as soon as possible, trying to catch Asuna while deflecting her attacks. He would probably start off by unleashing some of his dual-wielding skills, or basic strikes, if he could perform them right. At this stage of the fight, though, both fighters probably wouldn't have gained an edge over one another. But, moving on, Asuna would most likely try and dart around the arena, trying to expose an area Kirito wasn't defending and try to attack. And because of her speed, she would definitely land some hits and damage Kirito. But Kirito would catch on to this and change his fighting style. He would more tightly guard and defend the areas he knew were vulnerable to attack, while simultaneously charging at Asuna, looking to overwhelm her with either Starburst Stream or the Eclipse. If Kirito built up enough hits and slashes, he would end up hurting Asuna, definitely. So moving on to the end of the fight, both opponents would definitely be hurt and have put in a lot of damage to one another. If Asuna had not already overwhelmed Kirito with her fast sword skills, I see the end of the battle with Kirito barely coming out on top. He would unleash his special combos or hack and slash at Asuna until she lost the fight. But there is an extreme possibility that Asuna could win this fight, and should definitely not be underestimated. But, in the end, I do see a majority win for Kirito. I can see him winning this fight because of how devastating his moves are, and his skill to parry incoming attacks. Although in the end, he just barely won, but he still wins. And thus, I declare that the beater, the Black Swordsman, Kirito, wins. Alright, I just finished editing this, and I just wanted to throw this in at the very last minute. Thank you all for watching the video. I'm not sure if many people chose to stick around, but I'm sorry I did not have this video out sooner than... Well, I did want to have this video out on the 6th. It probably will be uploaded on the Saturday, which will be on the 12th. I'm sorry about that. This was a mistake on my part, considering the hit film, the software I'm using, completely crashed on me. I was really mad. I had to restart everything. And I know it's a pretty lame excuse, but it's the one I'm gonna have to say. So I'm sorry about that. And I really wanted to make this video because I feel like when I made that Reddit post, a lot of people downplayed Asuna. And a lot of people assumed that Kirito would immediately wipe the floor and it wouldn't even be a fair fight. And I was even, people even suggested that I take out Kirito's dual wielding, and then if I did that, the fight would have gone to Asuna. And it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been that fair, and I feel like giving him his dual wielding would have made it a far more interesting fight. So, although in the end he did end up winning, it was a lot of fun, and Asuna definitely should not be underrated. She definitely stands a chance, and like I said, there's a strong possibility where she could win. And I hope if you guys actually watch the full video, you guys can understand that. Maybe disagree with me. If you guys want to point out in the comment section, maybe she should have won. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I really maybe I'm just a bad fucking writer. Maybe I just couldn't express that enough. I don't know. If you guys have any disagreements, please leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear about it if you guys made it this far. I'm not sure if any of you guys did though. Be cool to see. I will be having some future videos coming up very soon. Probably gonna do a breakdown on the SAO Season 3 opening, Alicization. Very strong OP. Really loved it myself, and I really want to go over it. But I think someone already did do that, but I really do want to go over it myself because I was really touched by how much visuals and artistic design they put in. So anyway, this has been my video. Kirito is the winner, if you guys can agree with it or not. So, thanks for watching, guys. Please be sure to stick around. Peace.